She's the friend who'll show up with coffee or wine when you need it most, but probably wine. Good vibes are on the way. Welcome to Aaron O'Malley's Feel Good Frequency.
Hi, welcome back to Aaron O'Malley's Feel Good Frequency. I'm Aaron, and today, my friends, I have the guest that was at the very top of my list when I first started this podcast as to somebody who was a dream guest that I would absolutely love to talk to. If you are watching, you can see what is right in front of me and what I'm holding up, and that is a Life is Good box, because even the box is cool, and we never get rid of them. But I have two huge piles of clothes here that I just got together last night because we have so much Life is Good apparel in our home that I wanted to actually do a little bit of a count. 57 things. Plus, we have tumblers and a Life is Good cooler. Point being, huge fan. And I once heard John say that what you wear says a lot about what you believe in. And I believe that life is good. And I am so excited to introduce you to one of the two founding members of this incredible brand. I can't wait. I am so excited because my dream guest is here. Before we even get into anything, John Jacobs from Life is Good, I want to show you, when I say that this is the brand of my life, I mean this is the brand of my life. I went through yesterday to try to see how many things I owned that said Life is Good. And just to give you an idea, here's one pile.
Whoa.
And then I have, more. Here's the second pile. And we also have, of course, like stickers on our car, beach towels. Right now I'm at 57. That's the count.
Oh my gosh. Fantastic.
We even keep your boxes because they're so cute.
Nice. Wow.
Probably my favorite is the fact that my husband and I would not get rid of our Just Married shirts. And they're 14 and a half years old.
Oh, wow. I love seeing that. Obviously, you're all in. It doesn't appear that you just bought a bunch of vintage stuff online yesterday.
Oh, God, no.
That looks legit.
Here's my newest shirt, which goes so great with what I'm doing these days. It's for those not watching and just going to be listening. It is a lemon next to a glass of lemonade, and it says, "Make something of yourself." And I love that because when I first started this podcast, I didn't know what the heck I was doing because I had just lost my dream gig and, corporate layoffs and things. And so I was like, I'm going to make lemonade out of lemons. And so I keep this little lemon tree next to me to remind me, like, you know what? You're making the good out of the stressful and what could have been bad. But yeah, instead I'm finding the good. So yay. When I say you are my dream guest, I am not just saying that.
Aaron, a wise young person I knew that was going through something pretty heavy, he once said, he saw a poster that said, "When life gives you lemons, make lemonade." He said, "I think when life gives you lemons, you should eat them." And and I thought about it. I'm like, that's actually pretty deep, like to use it as fuel, and nutrients and like the adversity. And I mean, obviously both sayings are great, but I thought it was a new spin that really I found it pretty eloquent, actually.
I like that spin too because it makes you, I think that's something you'd remember. You'd remember the taste of it. So when you get to that other side where it's a lot better, you remember what that tasted like, and you're doing your best to try to stay away from that and make it as good and sweet as possible.
Yeah.
Oh, so you are officially, your title's my favorite title ever. You're the Chief Creative Optimist of Life is Good.
Yeah. Lucky to say that. And congrats on what you're doing. And obviously the world needs more of it. And I appreciate what you've built out of nothing with this podcast. So
thank you.
Happy to be here, Aaron.
Oh, I love having you here. And you started Life is Good with your brother. And one of the things that I love so much about this company is how grassroots you began. I mean, the grassest of roots, like old school way of climbing the ladder. It took you years to be an overnight success because I remember when this brand came out, it was suddenly it seemed like it was everywhere. But what people don't understand is you guys were everywhere before it was. Can you give some background about what you went through and the ladder you climbed to get to where you are?
Oh, thanks. Absolutely. I mean, there's a longer or shorter version, but like my brother and I grew up the youngest of six kids, chaotic little house outside of Boston. And I think around college age, we were wondering, is there any way we could, do the stuff we've loved since we were kids, drawing and writing? Is there any way you could do that for a living? And the idea of like studio art and galleries and stuff was very intimidating and mysterious. So t-shirts seemed like an accessible way to maybe try to sell artwork. And so we designed some shirts, and I was finishing up college. Bert's a little bit older, and we're the youngest two of six. And so we started running around the streets of Boston, like Faneuil Hall or Harvard Square, at rush hour. When I say rush hour, like foot traffic wise, and just would bring duffel bags over our shoulder and try to sell our designs, and very minimal success. But once in a while, if someone bought it, really said something positive, or actually we saw somebody wearing our shirt, it was a real boost, and we wanted more of that feeling. The idea that someone would not only like say it's cool, but pay money for it and actually want to wear it was very exciting. So we tried to dial into which messages, what art would connect, and so many failures along the way. Those days, the numbers were pretty pathetic in the street. We went on to start trying to sell in dorms, college dorms.
I love that you went up and down the coast for years, going to college dorms to the point that you were even like sleeping in the van that you guys had and on couches in dorm lobbies. I'm thinking to myself, everything is so secure these days, you'd never be able to get away with that now.
Yeah, the timing was very fortunate to us because we were basically college age, and we just wandered through campuses, and we were like some sort of rodents just looking for, by the time it was 1 a.m., where can we find a place dark and quiet to crash for a few hours behind a couch in a lounge or something, or back in the van. And oftentimes it was the van, and we would have piles of shirts in the back, and we had ripped the seats out. Our brother Ed helped us go to this auction and buy this old used van. And so we started driving up and down the coast, as you said. And, there was fun elements of it. We liked talking to people, meeting people, drawing, travel, but, we can romanticize it from this distance. There was also very pathetic nights where we didn't have the right permit, or we get kicked out of a dorm, or it's freezing, 0 degrees, and we're trying to sleep in the van, and you're getting shuffled away from campus police, and driving, and you had a night of 2 sales or 0 sales. So it definitely was a benefit to have a partner, and in our case, the guy that could make you laugh the most, the brother you spent 18 years in a bunk bed with. So we knew how to shake stuff off with a laugh, and I think without that, it would have been very difficult to rally ourselves after 3 or 4 of those nights in a row. And meanwhile, our friends who are in our 20s at this point are starting to do grown-up stuff, rent a real apartment and have relationships, and maybe a few years later, like buying a condo, or go wearing real clothes and going to a real job and stuff.
Yeah,
So
real jobs. They have real jobs.
yeah. So, but fortunately, the combo of like parents that weren't really pushing us toward one profession, and we just felt like we had some freedom. We really did for those years, and I'm glad we were allowed to stumble and try to find our way, because it took really 5 years of failing designs and messages and stuff to land on Life is Good, which was 31 years ago. That was 1994. There was moments, whether we were at a college or in the band, where we talked about how people seem inundated with negative information from the news. And unfortunately, it's still very prevalent. The news likes to lead with the sensational, with the negative, with the shocking, and to get people's attention or make them feel like they've got to watch the next segment of news. And we just wondered if we could help create something that could celebrate what's good with the world, what's good in people's lives. And as simple as that sounds, it's very needed. We found it to be really powerful. So anyway, after a long road trip, we came home. We were at a party with friends. We put a bunch of drawings up on the wall and asked them for feedback, what they liked best. And there was one of this original Jake character, this face with the words "life is good." We got so many comments around it. In fact, it was just a face at the beginning, but eventually, after all the positive comments, we kind of distilled them into those three simple words. And the next day when we looked at the wall, we're like, everyone's commenting on this one simple kid-like drawing. So we went and printed up our first Life is Good shirts. There was 48 of them and for a street fair in Cambridge, Mass. It was called the Central Square World Fair. And we were used to doing those and maybe selling 10 shirts for the day. And it was a whole different ballgame that day. We put out a bunch of our regular designs, which usually just got a few comments and a couple sales, and one pile of Life is Good shirts, 48 of them. And within an hour of the fair starting, Aaron, they all sold. And it was
Wow.
it was all different kinds of people too. Like, Harley Davidson guy, school teacher, skateboarder kid. And they're all like dialing into this one pile. And it immediately answered our hopes that, like, no matter what's going on in the world, people want to gravitate towards something positive. And I think that's part of the reason you started this podcast. And we found it to be true as the years have gone by, that whether the economy's struggling or we're at war or there's a tragedy or, we want to move toward a solution or helping or making people feel better. And so that shirt just resonated like nothing even close previously. And so then there was just a business puzzle of figuring out all these things we had no clue about, like retail. But I'll stop there because it's a long wandering tale. But I guess the big thing that jumps to me when we get to talk to younger folks that are interested in start a business is just go for it. And you don't have to spend 5 years writing a business plan. Just start making something or trying to provide some service and see what clicks and adjust. And we did a lot of adjusting as we listened to feedback in the dorm. Say, I don't like the feel of the shirt. I think that's too expensive. I don't like the saying. That artwork's not for me. We really try to take our lumps with the feedback and use that rejection as like a trainer or teacher. And I think that's sometimes lost when you want to create this perfect plan for a business. I think you give it a shot.
And this is such great advice for anybody. You learn from rejection instead of being obsessed about being rejected.
Yeah.
That we're all going to go through things where it just doesn't work. You're not getting the results that you want, but you can't say this isn't going to work now. Somebody's opinion doesn't have to be the label that you put on yourself forever, especially if you have something that you really just have a passion for, that you feel like you should absolutely do. Not doing it is like not being true to yourself. You have to, and I love how you said, just do it. So many people spend so much time, and I realize there's a certain amount of organization that has to come with starting a business. I appreciate that, but you don't need, like you said, this whole plan over years and years, analyzing it. Just do it. Just go out and do it. I had no idea what I was doing with this. None. I still don't. I mean, I kind of fake it till I make it, but I had never done video in my life. I reached out to friends and people that I didn't even know and said, hey, do you know how to set up a camera? What one do you think would be good? And I drowned myself in YouTube videos for a month. And then at the end of it, I said, you know what? I know enough to start, and I will learn the rest along the way. I will learn the rest, because if I waited until I felt ready, I'd still be waiting.
That's right. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, there were so many puzzles ahead with how to grow a business and how retail works. But it wasn't, in some ways, it was similar to running through the dorms. There was door-to-door knocking once we decided to try to get into stores, and there was plenty of rejection there too, until a few retailers said, "Yeah, I'll try a few out. I'll buy 24 shirts, you know." And but again, just like we found in the street, the message clicked, and there is a real appetite to balance the sensational and the negative out there, and that is what, you know, our mission is, to spread the power of optimism. And I think the number one inspiration for us was our mom growing up, who had plenty of challenges, but somehow found a way to rally her playfulness through, you know, storytelling, jokes, singing, just being silly, encouraging physical play. And that, you know, I don't think we were that conscious of it until we were probably leaving the house. But wow, mom made a conscious effort to create that kind of energy in the house. Our dad did some wonderful stuff for us, but he didn't bring that kind of energy, and was a challenging person to have. He had a temper, and some stuff was not his fault, but he was a very handy man and an avid outdoorsman. And in a car accident, he lost the use of his right arm when we were really young, me and Bert. So the dad, the really outgoing or active dad, had to shift gears. And I think the combo of those frustrations and his pressure to feed 8 people on a slim salary led to tons of frustration and yelling in the house. So when we look back, we were like, mom was pretty heroic in handling all that and maintaining positive energy, not 24/7, but so consistently finding a way to access playfulness. You know, if we have time, I'd love to share. That's where our nonprofit energy is focused, and we are a unique model where we're both a for-profit business and a nonprofit called the Life is Good Playmaker Project.
10% of every sale goes to help kids.
That's
You
right.
even have that on everything, even the box, 10% for kids in need. I love that. It's everywhere.
Yeah, and we realized the first 10 years we were focused here, we were working directly with the kids, and we realized we could have broader impact if we help the heroes that are in the trenches already every day, the teachers, the counselors, the oncologists that are trying to build life-changing relationships with kids, particularly kids who've been through some sort of trauma.
Mhm.
And when you think about trauma, you think maybe one incident, but a lot of kids are dealing with everyday poverty, violence at home, or just the lack of like one loving adult in their life. And we've learned over the years that all it takes is one. You know, it
Yep.
can just, if there isn't a parent like that in the picture, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a coach, but if we can help those heroes to retain their own openness, playfulness, joy, optimism, they can, you know, feed it to the kids. Kind of like when they say in a airplane,
Mask on before help others. Yep.
exactly. We got to take care of the child care providers and help them avoid burnout, because burnout's very common in those positions. So that's what Playmakers does. We train those child care providers to retain their own optimism, and we have a lot of tools to give them to do that.
How do you find them? How do you find these teachers and people to help? Do they come to you?
We have some huge partnerships with things like Boys and Girls Club, Bright Horizons, etc. But before that, it was just kind of word of mouth and outreach to schools. And now the word is out more. And now we have a Playmaker University, so that it's way more accessible, because our team is only so big in terms of physically visiting schools and teachers. So we have a lot of resources available online for potential playmakers, and the community has grown so fast, and now we're positively impacting over 1 million kids every
Wow.
year. And we still feel like it's just getting started. I would say for my brother and I, a lot of it kind of harkens back to our mom. She was our original playmaker looking back. And we want to give as many kids as possible access to that kind of love, which is, the playfulness. It's so crucial. And it can sound kind of like soft, fuzzy stuff, the play, but it's actually the best way to communicate to kids. We've lived it growing up, and we've seen it through stories from our customers, and then most clearly through the work of the playmakers, like how powerful it can be to save kids' lives, literally.
That's exactly what you're doing. And I love how much pride you have in your mom and all she did to help you and to motivate you, because she really was, it sounds like the yin and yang of your parents, the energy she brought, the just constant positivity. I love that. I can't imagine really what you'd be like if you didn't have that kind of inspiration in your life. You're constantly having her on your mind. And I know that because when I took the tag off of my brand new shirt here, your mom's on it.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. I'm like, she is everywhere. And I just think it speaks volumes to the kind of person that she was. She sang, she danced, and became wild characters in stories like The Dragon Who Breathes Love Instead of Fire. It's just, you could not have honored her more.
Oh, thank you so much. And before I share a little more about Joan, like, again, our dad got us hiking, got us outdoors. He supported the whole family. He had a lot of good traits too, and a real like devoted craftsman and stuff like that. But yeah, when we think about the brand, it just seems like it came very much from the energy and the choices that Joan made. And when I say choices, like coping mechanisms,
Sure.
there's ones that aren't healthy for you in the long term, and then there's ones that, and I'm thinking all the way back to when she was growing up. She was one of 9 kids and lost her beloved oldest brother when he was 13.
Oh.
And then lost like several best friends in World War II. So that's, she lived a good long life, but like going all the way back there, and she struggled with mental health, etc. And the things she reached for, I think her mom was supportive of her too, encouraging her to get outdoors. But the play, the drawing, the music, dance, like that stuff is stuff that can carry you through difficult times and help you navigate. And so I think she was able to see how much it helped her in her most difficult times. And then as a mom, I'm sure what was a very stressed out environment in our little house, she must have had some sort of conversations with herself, like, I got to rally in order to change the energy, because we could have easily been at that little dinner table talking about difficult classmates, teachers, assignment. Instead, my memories are of absurd, funny, positive conversations. And
Well, because she started it all with, okay, tell me something good that happened today.
wow, Erin, all right.
I
Yeah,
love that.
it's very true. And that is, we actually use that at Life is Good all the time. It sounds so simple, and it is, but in business, like if you start the meeting with what's wrong in your department, like people are going to have a list, and they're real things, but it's going to suck the energy out of the meeting. So instead, we try to start with something positive. And that might just be some fun nugget from the weekend, or it could be a little bit of momentum in the department because of X or Y. And everyone can build on that. And that's what we found. We found that in the van, like making conversations with people. And then we really, the most enlightenment, I think, came from these stories we never expected from customers. So we get a little bit of momentum going in the mid to late 90s, and we're kind of like doubling in size, but it's still a tiny business every year. And then, probably late 90s, we're noticing more and more mail coming in. And the first kind we kind of expected. People are like, thanks for celebrating road trips, or my family, or dog, or music, or yoga, or you name it. We were just like anything that people want to celebrate that they do, that it's healthy. And then, but the other half of the mail was like people saying like, I was I was dealing with cancer and your hat helped me stay positive during chemo. Or our whole family wore your shirts to the memorial service of our brother because he lived with this Life is Good spirit. And we were so moved, but we had no idea what to do about these letters. And we were trying to figure out the business. So we kind of like stuffed them in a drawer. And then as the years went by, they became emails and mail. And we realized all we have to do is share them. At first, it was just to our little team in the warehouse. And it helped us all remember that we weren't just making T-shirts and hats.
Yeah.
Like we were trying to get messages out to the world. And then once we started sharing them on our website, we got a lot of people chiming in. I felt like I was alone going through this. I just went through a breakup. So it could be more ordinary challenge, everyday frustrations with work or traffic or a little bit heavier, like a relationship thing or like big challenge. And we realized these stories can really help us all feel more connected and less alone. So we started calling those letters fuel, and because it was our fuel to give that extra effort at work and say, this goes way beyond trying to pay some salaries here. We're trying to fulfill this mission of spreading the power of optimism. So how do we get more of these stories out there? And the more we shared them, the more came in. And there's been a lot of evolution. 10 years ago, we wrote a book brilliantly titled, Aaron, Life is Good, the book.
Yep. It's very good too, just as the title would suggest.
But anyway, the sort of backbone of the book is these stories from the community, and each one aligns with these 10 values we call the Life is Good superpowers. Things like gratitude and creativity and love and simplicity and humor. And each story kind of spoke to one of those. And so these written stories do a certain thing for you if you have the chance to read them. And then when we were touring around doing fundraisers for Playmakers that year, we actually went out and filmed some of these stories, some of the people we'd never met in person. And that was what I thought of as like Fuel 2.0, because, video is so powerful. And so that reached people at an even deeper level. And these days, because that was a decade ago, with some of those really nice videos of stories like Lindsay Beggin, who was a 10-year-old girl who got bone cancer. Her prognosis was terminal bone cancer. She was supposed to die within a year. And yet she had the most incredible smile and attitude whenever she started popping up in the press with a Life is Good hat on all the time. And we were like, we got to reach out to this girl. And she's just inspirational. And I say to this day, because she was able to beat it. And she's like late 30s now, doing great in her career, like great relationship. Her family's amazing. But when we go back to that time when we just got to meet her, like we just want to send her a bunch of like all the hats we made at the time. And we've never heard anything. And then months went by and her mom called, and we were kind of bracing for like difficult news. And her mom said, no, she's doing pretty well, and she'd like to come in and thank you guys. And it was like 4 people in the company. So we all were in the office. She came and she told this story of being in the hospital with her head shaved. And she had given her hats to her soccer teammates. And she said they all came in, we're wearing the hats, and then they took off the hats and they'd all shaved their head.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It gets me every time, because that's a big deal for girls that age to do that.
Oh gosh, yes.
Incredible. So those kind of things, I could tell you 20 of these favorites, but like there's incredible stories of, you name it, the adversity people have faced, and how they've chosen gratitude and optimism in the worst situations and how it's helped pull them through. So that's, I find these stories particularly helpful because just in case somebody doesn't want to hear it from a t-shirt guy, which I don't blame them. And at this stage, I've been through heavy stuff on the personal side and, challenged the business. So I think I'm qualified, but if anyone was skeptical, like I just say, look at these stories of these people.
Right.
Like it's so real. And
Call me. I have 57 pieces of Life is Good things for a reason. There are times you just have to remind yourself when you're having a rough go of it.
Yeah, well said. And people say it's sort of sometimes they're like, I think of it as my armor for myself, my reminder before I try to go share that energy with someone else. And
Yes.
I think everyone at our company and a lot of our customers can relate to that. It's that choice. There's not an easy one. I think it's a courageous choice to say, I'm going to bring the positive energy. That's what Joan did. What kind of energy are you going to bring to the table? And I'm not saying that's like that every day for any of
No.
us.
If you did it all the time, 24/7, it would be fake. It's not.
Yeah.
We all go through things. It's not that. It's the underlying core of I'm gonna look for the good in this. There's got to be good, even when I don't see it. I will find it.
Yes. Yeah, there was this phrase that came out of the fuel community, get to. I don't know if you heard this one, but this one guy said he painted houses for a living and he found himself saying, I have to do this, that have to do that. And he's like, why don't I just say I get to do that? And again, it sounds so simple, but it was so powerful. And we started applying it to work. Like I get to go to a meeting because I have
Yep.
teammates. I get to work here because there's a deeper purpose. And even like during COVID, it was like, okay, it's a little weird that we're on Zoom all the time, or somebody invented this and allowed us to stay in contact and see each other. And so we get to use this technology. But I think the ones that even resonate more are like, do you have to go to the grocery store or do you get to because we live in a land that has grocery stores?
Right.
Or,
Well, I mean, just go watch an old Western and see what it was like. There was no grocery store. There was no. You went
Yeah.
and found your food, not in
Yeah.
an aisle either.
yeah, yeah. And do you have to pay the bill, which sounds like a terrible part of the week, but if you think about it, you probably get to pay a bill because you have a roof over your head and
Right.
some other resources, So that didn't come from us. That came from a customer, but we try to share that one because it's very memorable and applicable. And when you started talking about, that choice, and another way we talk about it is practicing optimism. Like it's not just a trait. Like you're not either an optimist or a pessimist. It is a practice. And so what are the tools we use? And Aaron, I'd be interested to hear some that you reach for, and I'd be happy to share some of mine. They're not brilliant or groundbreaking, but they work. The basic stuff of like moving your body and drinking water and connecting with friends. Like what comes to mind for you?
I'm always reminding myself that whatever it is, I have gotten through it all already. I've already been through crazy things that and I kept that energy and I kept that faith and just knowledge and an inner core belief that everything was going to be okay. And I remind myself through some really tough times, you know what? It's going to be okay. When I had breast cancer, I immediately dressed like Wonder Woman for every chemo appointment. And I was only going to do it for the first one just to kind of let cancer know it messed with the wrong girl kind of thing. But then when I got to Dana-Farber, all these other people there were smiling and like, you go, girl. And it lifted their spirits. And I thought, you know what? I'm wearing this every single time because it's not just cheering me up. It's helping other people all around me. And so that helped me. And I love helping others. I feel like when I make somebody else smile or I make somebody's day, it makes mine. And so that's the other tool that I think I'm constantly looking for is how can I make somebody else's day better? Because that's not only going to help somebody else, but it's going to lift my spirits too, because I'm I'm doing something purposeful.
Yeah.
I'm making somebody smile, and that is one of the greatest gifts, I think.
I loved everything you just said. And yeah, I don't know if I say congrats, but like just kudos for how you navigated that very intense challenge. And I have a lot of loved ones that have dealt with that exact same challenge. And I love the example you set in terms of how to take it on head on. I don't expect everyone to go full Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
although that would be amazing for the planet.
It would be,
Um,
but I get it. Everybody's different. But for me, it was not, it wasn't an act. It wasn't fake. It was just like, you know what? And I've always felt this way. If God forbid it comes back, you know what? I will just fight it again. I'm not going to let it drag me down. I
and,
just
and
am not.
and going back to the last thing you said about like helping somebody else, I think that might be counterintuitive sometimes when people are really feeling heavy, overwhelmed, but it's so true. Like if you think about, I think about times when I had major challenges. You think about someone on your contact list that is either also going through some or something a little worse, and calling them, you
Mhm.
do feel better after that call. You're like, maybe I gave them a little bit of lift today, or just that sort of walking alongside the person, going through it. But it weirdly helps you as well. And the stuff I started listing is more obvious self-care stuff that people talk about a lot, but it's just like the most basic stuff, some daylight every day, some
Fresh air.
exercise.
Yes.
Yes, move your body. That is like a game changer for me personally, like especially if I can do it right first thing in the morning, like then better dad, husband, teammate, anything, human, but no, that is such a great one to emphasize is, and I don't know, it can sound cliche, but it could be the smallest gesture of like a 5-minute call with a friend, or but that is actually going to lift your own spirits, feel like you've already done something good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets you out of your own head, out of whatever is going on, even if it's just for a moment. It's, you know what, I'm not going to sit here and obsess about whatever is going wrong. And instead, I'm going to purposefully do something that will help somebody else, but also just get me out of my head. And I like doing that.
Aaron, I'm turning the tables. I'm the interviewer now. I want to know if there's other actionable nuggets like that, because that's a great one that doesn't come up as often. What are other tools of like tapping into the power of optimism from your view?
I look at the great things instead of putting so much weight on the negative, because that's what the news does.
Yeah.
I don't need that. The negative is passing. It's fleeting. And I often think of news as the reason they lead with all the negative and negative stories. If that was the norm, they wouldn't talk about it all the time. So
Yeah.
the bad stuff, the murders, the horrible news of things that happen, if that was an all the time everyday occurrence that you saw, it wouldn't be on the news. But
Yeah.
the good stuff, the 23 seconds of good story is, well, of course that happened because people at their core are good. So
Yes.
they don't spend as much time on it.
It's like we're bored, not you and I, and anyone who's, I think, thinking about it this broadly is not bored with the good, but I think the news, they're tapping into the whole fight or flight thing that was wired into us a long time ago, in like caveman days of like, you got to be on alert for the
Yep.
saber tooth, for the mammoth, and that is hard to shake. That is part of our DNA, like to look for threats, but you got to consciously try to balance it out by, like you said, focusing on positive stuff to help that grow in your life, in the world. And I don't know if any of this sounds cliche to some people, but it's so true. And I like the word fleeting that you used, because so many of those shocking stories are just like nonsense that are gone in a day or two, and
Mhm.
completely irrelevant to your life as a viewer or listener. But just trying to grab at that part of your psyche that's like trying to protect yourself. It's nonsense.
I try not to ingest it. I think that's super important not to ingest it. And also, do not spend more than 5 minutes of your life stressing about or being upset about something you won't even remember in 5 years.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the other thing.
And none of this obviously is to say there's not heavy, negative, tons of it stuff happening in the world. It's very real, but it's in terms of like how much you can impact positively, how much is relative to your life, what can you do? Pick the things you can actually have an impact on and go after those things. And you could start with relationships with people right in your circle and then bigger community. And then, all the audience you're trying to reach, and likewise, we're trying to do to reach with Life is Good. Those are the ways we're trying to do it. From our standpoint, it's put out products with positive, uplifting messages, share stories that make people feel less alone and more connected and positive, and then the work of the playmakers. Like there's a lot of other variations, but like those are three of the main things we come back to say, okay, this is going on in the world, or these are challenging things in the economy, et cetera. But what is our strength and how do we apply the good stuff that we have to help some other people feel it and have it impact their lives positively? So that's why I was going back to like hearing more tools from you, because I like through our social feeds and our products and stuff, we try to put those things out there. And it's fun, like being, I don't want to say part of the solution, but part of the a movement really to help us all. Not like we've figured it out, Aaron or John. It's more like, how do we help all of us spend more mind space on positive things? Because what we focus on will grow. So why don't we devote more time to the solutions, to the good stories, and build on those things?
100%. And like you've said, and the company talks about, is that life isn't easy, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yep.
And you have found, and the company has found, ways to continue that positivity even in the toughest times. I remember the Boston Marathon bombing, and you had a beautiful shirt. Of course, I have that. And the whole COVID issue and all of us being away from each other. I think one of the shirts that I found that I loved said, "Until we hug again," or something. Like you found a way to keep the positivity up in such rough times for people, and that's part of your movement, and you're making such a difference.
Thank you, Aaron. There was, it's been a learning for us, but it was cool to see. I'll go all the way back to 9/11. Like in the aftermath, we didn't know if it was appropriate to send out boxes of shirts that said "Life is Good." Anyone who was old enough to remember that time, it was obviously shocking and a unique time. And we kind of were brainstorming with our small warehouse team. And this woman said, what if we did a fundraiser shirt for the victims and their families? And through the United Way, that's what we did. But it gave our team energy. Okay, we're going to try to help somehow. And sure enough, customers bought an absurd amount of those shirts, and we did our first major fundraiser, and it was eye-opening to us. Okay, very heavy tragedy that is on everyone's mind, but people want to help, and they want to find a positive in this somehow. And then your example, there's been others, but like the marathon bombing, the one prevalent message was Boston Strong, which is a great message. It's an old, tough city. But the shirt ended up actually saying "Nothing is stronger than love" on the back, and
that's right. Nothing's stronger than love.
Yeah, and Boston with a little heart on the front, and that was because the community said, "Are you going to do a fundraiser?" Our office was 2 blocks from the bombs, so we were worried about our team and getting them some help, just making sure everyone was okay. And it was the community saying, will you do another fundraiser shirt? And that became the biggest selling shirt we ever made, and raised like $500,000 for the One Fund back then. It was the community. I was like proud of the city being tough and resilient, but even prouder of like humans way beyond Boston helping with the fundraising effort and choosing to focus not on the hate, which,
Yep.
as we said earlier, the news couldn't get enough of the story of the two people that did this and the actual bombing. Everywhere else, it was like EMTs risking their lives, people sharing their homes or phones with strangers.
Oh, and then the people who, this still gives me chills when I say it, the people who finished the marathon, heard what happened, and kept running to local hospitals to donate blood.
Yeah. Doctors doing 60-hour shifts of surgery. I mean, that was the real story to us, like people, and then people way outside of Boston helping with funds, with a fundraiser like ours and others. That is the takeaway, that in the like optimism is most powerful in the darkest times. And
Absolutely.
that's a truth that we've realized over time. So yeah, thanks. I know we've got to wrap up, but I want to thank you again for starting this, for hosting this, and for putting out so much good energy into the world, Erin.
Well, thank you so much. I am forever grateful that you took some time to chat with me, and I will forever support you. And life is good. And thank you for reminding us all of that, because we need more of it.
Well, we're never going to stop. And I hope you don't either. Thank you so much, Erin. It was great to be part of your show.
I loved having you. Thank you so much. I could talk to you all day, so I will officially let you go.
All right.
I seriously could have talked to John all day long. He had another meeting to go to because, he's running a company and everything. But, oh man, is he a fantastic human, making the world better all the time, every day, even in the worst of times. It's so important to remember that life is good. And I mean, obviously, I believe it. Even though Mama's not making any money right now, she will always have a little extra to spend on life is good, especially when a message is so perfect on the shirt, like it was made for you or something. Can you imagine just for a second what companies would be like if they were all run by people like John? Seriously, to start a meeting by saying, tell me something good that's going on, instead of, all right, well, the numbers are down, blah, blah, blah. It really would make a difference. I think back to the movie Monsters, Inc., actually. And whenever the monsters would make the kids scream, they'd get a certain amount of energy or points or however they did it. But when they turned it around and made the kids laugh, they were more productive than they had ever been before and were a huge success. And I feel like that's such a great lesson to take from that movie and the way that John is running the company with his brother Bert. They have wonderful teammates surrounding them. That's the other thing. Nobody's called an employee. They're teammates. That is a lesson that I feel like every CEO, every manager, every supervisor should take away from this, because you really can make your company something positive. And I'm telling you, as somebody that's only ever been a worker up until now, people need to hear about the happy, and they need to know that you actually care. It goes a long way. So, John, thank you for your time, for your insight, for your product, and for your forever optimism and positivity. The world needs more of you, and you are definitely making it a better place. Thank you so much for joining me on Erin O'Malley's Feel Good Frequency. I hope you have a fantastic week. Bye.